Welcome back to CBS Sports HQ. Patrick Mahomes reportedly dealing with a mid-high ankle sprain is considered week to week. The Chiefs quarterback suffering the injury in KC's win in Cleveland Sunday. Here's Mahomes, but first let's hear from his head coach Andy Reid.
His right ankle has been hurt. It's not broken, but it's sore, and he'll get started on the rehab part of it as we go, and then we'll just have to see how he does down the road here.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say right now. I mean, obviously, still adrenaline rolling, and usually it's kind of the day after is when you kind of get a good sense of it. But I feel like I could have finished the game in different circumstances, but I thought the smart decision, I think we talked about, was to put Carson in, and he's played a lot of football, and he finished the game well. Obviously, fourth down, trying to make a play happen, and as I threw the ball, I kind of got hit, and I haven't seen it, but it felt like someone hit me from behind as well, and so I kind of just got rolled up on. It kind of happens in football, and so try to bounce back up, but obviously it hurt a little bit. But now we'll just get after the rehab part of it and try to be ready for next week.
Mahomes just one of a handful of high-profile injuries that happened on Sunday that we're monitoring. To be determined as T.J. Watt, Nick Chubb, and David Montgomery out for the season. We just learned about the Detroit running back's status from his head coach Dan Campbell just earlier this afternoon. I'm Tommy Tran, now joined by our injury analyst, Marty Jaramillo, here on HQ. Marty, great to be with you. Let's talk about, first and foremost, the Patrick Mahomes injury. You heard from his head coach, Andy Reid, there. Give me the latest on what your understanding of his injury is.
Well, Chiefs fans everywhere, Tommy, they just held their breath as they saw Mahomes limping off the field. We couldn't even tell exactly what was injured. It almost appeared both his ankles were involved. But it is confirmed that it is a right high ankle sprain. Andy Reid is concerned, and rightly so. They have 3 games in 11 days, and the last 2 in shortened weeks. So let's break this down. Mahomes actually has a history of playing through this exact same injury. Back in 23 in the divisional playoffs, he sustained a high ankle sprain and played through it all the way through the Super Bowl, and even re-aggravated it during the big game, and they won it. Now, that history of rehabbing the same exact injury provides him the wisdom of what he can push through and what he cannot push through. Guaranteed he's going to have treatments at least twice a day to address the swelling that sets in. Just like Patrick said, Monday, Tuesday is when the swelling sets in, the pain, the inflammation, the loss of motion. So treatments twice a day to address all that, especially swelling. If you have swelling, that leads to instability, which leads to loss of power at push-off. Now, typically, we like a 3 to 4 week rest time for this, but we don't have the luxury with this schedule that they have. So I'm going to agree with what the betting lines have already priced in, that more than likely they'll rest them against Houston and look forward to meeting Santa and playing Pittsburgh and hopefully get a great Christmas gift that day.
We saw there, of course, a graphic of all the backup quarterbacks. Hadn't happened very often. It would have been Carson Wentz, who had a couple of snaps against Cleveland, against the Browns over the weekend. But again, we'll see how that works out with Kansas City. 2 games in about 10 days, Marty. So we also, speaking of backup quarterbacks, saw Sam Howell III in prime time on Sunday Night Football. Geno Smith dealing with an injury against the Packers, a knee issue for Geno.
Well, optimistic is the word we are sending out to Seahawks fans. Coach McDonald is exactly what he echoed earlier today. So Geno sustained an interesting injury. He was tackled from behind and sustained what we call a hyperflexion injury, where the knee is forcibly bent and then you have the impact on the ground. And that makes him vulnerable to a number of both quad tendon, patella tendon injuries, which is in the front of the knee, as well as potential ligament injuries. But right now, early reports is that he doesn't have any structural damage, which means tendons and ligaments are intact, but still has the impact of the injury, which brings a lot of additional swelling, which can cause weakness and instability. So more imaging to come. We will update that as we have more. But once again, crazy schedules that are coming ahead. I do expect them to play aggressive treatments to address the swelling, maintain range of motion, maintain strength. But I think he dodged the bullet here.
Let's keep it with the quarterbacks. What about Jalen Hurts' finger?
Well, we all saw, well, most of us saw the brace he was wearing as he came into the game versus the Steelers. He had a brace on his ring finger of his non-throwing hand. Now, even though it's his non-throwing, it is quite vulnerable when he plays. Just the impact alone of the snaps under center can jolt the finger, actually cause him to lose a little focus, even for a split second. Plus, possibly blocking, stiff arm blocking, and of course, bracing himself for a tackle. All of it can really jolt and really re-injure that same hand. But what a worry he is. He even mentioned in the post-game press conference, maybe it's shattered, maybe it's not. It is what it is. Fantastic athlete, working really hard. Now, the athletic training staff was quite creative. They're actually keeping that brace in place, which is very vulnerable to shifting, by using a glove, cutting out the tip of the ring finger to kind of snug it out on top of that brace and keep it in place. But once again, adds more bulk and potential with gripping the football with any kind of stability.
Same game, other side. Marty, what's the take on TJ Watt?
Well, with TJ, you know, sometimes these injuries, particularly to the ankle, can look gruesome on replay because these ankle injuries, the ligaments are extremely elastic. They expand, the ankle rolls over, the pain is excruciating, but then those same ligaments recoil and the athlete can come back very quickly. I think that's the case with TJ. Early x-rays, negative. Coach Tomlin today also said he's very optimistic. So aggressive treatments for this ankle. Pain is the guide, swelling is a guide. But I do expect him to play this weekend. He's such a warrior, probably will well taped on that left ankle, and I think we'll just do a day-to-day with him. But once again, dodge the bullet for the most feared edge rusher in the game.
Having another fantastic season, top 3 in sacks so far through 15 weeks of the NFL season. Let's end this segment with a couple of running backs. Unfortunately, we're talking about Nick Chubb once again. He was already dealing with all those knee issues coming into the season. Marty now dealing with a broken foot.
Well, Coach Stefanski said it perfectly. We all have had a front row seat to what Nick Chubb can do. His recovery from one of the most gruesome, most difficult, most severe knee injuries a person can have, he recovered from it twice. And we saw what the kind of inspiration he gives on and off the field. Now, he had a non-contact fracture of his left foot, the opposite foot of his rehab right knee. But we see this a lot when we have an athlete with prolonged immobilization following knee surgery. And he has a long history, both right and left knees. So oftentimes these compensatory patterns, this overload situation on other structures may have predisposed them for this. But non-contact does not look surgical, so we expect a 6 to 8 week recovery, and he'll be ready for OTAs just to build on this incredible comeback. He's already begun to lay that groundwork. But I'm telling you, he's been such an inspiration to his teammates, his family, his coaches, and yours truly.
Lastly, let's end with David Montgomery. Before I get your thoughts on the Detroit running back, Marty, we're going to hear from Dan Campbell, who announced an update to his star player earlier this afternoon.
He's going to require surgery that'll put him out for the rest of the year, you know, and he had gotten it at some point yesterday in that game. I mean, David's so tough, man. You know, he continued to play through and then got it checked out today and, you know, and realized that's what it was. And, I mean, he's just the ultimate teammate, ultimate competitor. You know, we're going to miss him, man. He's another one of these guys that got us to this position, helped get us to where we're at. And man, you know, the rest of us, we owe him to keep going and make sure that wasn't in vain. No different than Mac. Mac's out for the year. Same, you know, he's got a knee injury. It's going to require surgery. Dorsey had his last night. You know, CD, he's got a jaw. He'll be out. So, you know, those guys helped us get to this point, so we owe it to them. They laid it on the line for us.
Marty, for David Montgomery, it's being described as an MCL injury. So take me through the recovery timetable for the Detroit running back.
Absolutely. Bad news coming out of the Detroit Lions. We only suspected an MCL tear, which is the medial collateral ligament, one of the 4 stabilizing ligaments of the knee on the inside part of the knee. Here's the issue. 95% of the time, they never require surgery. About 3 to 6 week recovery. But now Coach Campbell confirmed he will require surgery, which means imaging showed additional structures. MCL, possibly meniscus, and even possibly ACL. All that considered, fully expect him to be ready for training camp next year. But Coach Campbell says something very interesting that works on two sides of the equation. It's an opportunity. Opportunity for the younger players, next man up mentality, but also an opportunity for David himself. Get his body right, get his mind straight. 1 year, 8 to 12 months approximately, recovery and away from football to just get that body straight. It's a wonderful opportunity for any player with any kind of prolonged recovery. Sure, a bad blow, sure, bad luck, all of that. But once you have your plan in place and your team in place, it's smooth sailing. I expect a great comeback as well as a very productive year next year for him. Tough blow.
Good to hear from him individually, but of course the Lions continue to deal with the injury bug. Marty Jaramillo, our injury analyst, joining us here on HQ. Marty, certainly appreciate it. A reminder about news, highlights, scores, injury updates. It's all here and it's all free.